Welcome everyone to another Conversations in the Void. I am your host, Graveyard, joined as always with my off-screen producer, Salem. Make sure to say hi to Salem in chat. He loves to hear from each and every one of you. I'm excited for tonight's guest. He is a multi-award-winning comic veteran who has worked with titles such as Spawn, 30 Days Night, has done creature creations for Haunting of Hill House of all things. Please welcome to the Void, Jay Fotos.
Yay!
How you doing tonight?
Good, man. How you guys doing?
Like I said, other than the colds, just fine.
Yeah, I was busting your balls a little bit behind the curtains over there about how it was like 85 degrees today, and you guys are like in the teens or something like that. And I'm like, I know your pain. I'm from New York. I know I've shoveled a ton of snow. I get it. That's why I moved to Arizona, mainly just to get out of shoveling snow.
I'm the weirdo that wants to move more north.
So, really? Okay.
Yeah. I couldn't imagine walking out in February and it being 85, quite honestly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's unseasonably warm. I guess normally it's supposed to be like 70, which is still great weather. But I guess it's going to drop back down to that next week or something. But yeah, I'll take it. I'll take it for sure.
Awesome. So, Jay, before we get into the kind of the meat and potatoes of who you are and what you wait, we like to get to know our guests a little bit more. So, what really brought you into the world of art, really, in comic book creation?
What brought me into the world of art and comic book? All right. Well, as a kid, growing up in the South, I'm a 70s, 80s kid. So, growing up as a kid, I wasn't really into comic books too much. My father used to get heavy metal.
Okay.
And he used to stop at this cigar shop back in Jersey on the way visiting my grandmother's or whatever back and forth. And he always used to stop, get a couple cigars, and pick up the latest heavy metal magazine. And then he really didn't let me read them or look at them because of all the nudity or whatever. But he always used to like hide them in the attic, or he had a big stack up there, and I used to sneak up there and read them all the time.
Right.
And that what got my attention over any kind of like comic books that were on the racks at, your local drugstores or whatever back then, because none of them really appealed to me because they were kind of not as dynamic. I mean, if you're comparing, like Spider-Man to like, heavy metal was like full painted and
right.
They had all the the sci-fi and horror and all that kind of stuff, and then monsters and all the stuff that I like. So I leaned way towards more of that. And then, as I grew up, went to high school or whatever, and then kind of in my later high school years when I decided like, okay, well, I mean, I was always an artist, drawing, whatever, but nothing too serious. And then later, in high school, like figuring out, okay, what am I going to do with my life kind of thing. And then I kind of buckled down and decided to go, all right, I'll apply to art school. And then back then I guess they still kind of do it now, but you have to build a portfolio to get submitted or
right.
Whatever to get into school. So I built a portfolio in high school and started jumping around to all the different schools in the area. I applied to, well, first I applied, if you ever heard of FIT, Fashion Institute of Technology.
Okay.
They're out of Manhattan, and they were the first school. And I don't know why I wanted to apply. It was a fashion institute. It was like, right. But I guess they had like some kind of graphic design or illustration program that I was kind of interested in. And then I showed up there, and the guy like kind of like flipped through my portfolio in like 5 minutes and goes, "You're an illustrator. you don't need to go here." And I'm like, okay, so. And then walked out of there going like, okay, well then, I think I had like, I think School of Visual Arts was on my list too, and applied there, got in there, and then I didn't like it, and then I ended up dropping out of School of Visual Arts and going to Parsons School of Design, which was like 4 or 5 blocks over, where in Manhattan.
Okay.
And then kind of focused my attention on like certain classes that I wanted to take that I thought would help me as an artist, rather than, because when I went into SVA, School of Visual Arts, they had me going like the full degree program, taking English and all this stuff over. I'm like, I don't want to take this shit. I just want to, I want to become
Right.
an artist. I want to learn, so that really kind of brought me down. So when I switched over to Parsons, they gave me the option of like, well, just take the classes you want, pay for them, and they're non-credited. You're not going for a degree, but you're still in the same class as credited degree students, the same class. And I'm like, fuck yeah, that's I'm not spending 40 grand a year for tuition and just paying for the classes that I thought that would help me the most. Then eventually I ended up moving out to Arizona. And luck of the draw, I was working at an art store. I met a couple of buddies there. They kept coming in buying art supplies, and then became friends with them. And they would go every Wednesday to the comic book shop. And I didn't know that was a thing back then. And then I would go with them, and then they're like, "Oh, you should pick up Spawn." I'm like, "Yeah, okay, cool." I pick it up. I'm like, "Wow, okay, comics have changed since last time I got into them."
Right. Yeah.
And then started getting into Spawn, and ironically enough, like not even 2 years later, I ended up working for McFarlane, on Spawn, and I was working with him in the office here in Tempe, and working on Spawn, Curse of the Spawn, Spawn the Undead, Cygor, Sam and Twitch. A lot of anything that he had coming through the doors that he needed production art done or whatever, like animation or toys or whatever. So album covers, so everything that came in, like I was able to kind of get my fingers on in a way, and learning so much.
Right.
It was that I tell everybody, if anybody asks me, that was my boot camp for becoming a comic book artist. So
under McFarlane. That's a hell of a boot camp.
Yeah. Because for what was it? Probably 3 years I was in the office with him, and then he kind of booted us out because he had all of his people for the toy company. They were up in Michigan, and they all came down in Arizona, and they didn't have the room for us. So they're like, "Why don't you just go freelance?" And they put me. I stayed on Sam and Twitch for a few years, and then at that same time, I was able to start working with other companies. And then I started working with Chaos Comics and IDW, and started doing more freelance stuff. And then, here I am now, 27 years later. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome. Because I remember Spawn, like, I was, a kid of the 80s, 90s trying to get into comics. And like, where do I start? I'm like, oh, do I have Spider-Man number 600 here? Or do I start like, oh, here's a Spawn number 1.
Yeah.
That's a great place to start. And I immediately picked it up, collected the first 200 of them, and loved it. Obviously went into the Sam and Twitch side of it as well.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. You talk about like the art style. Yeah, it is. They were huge set pieces, full page.
Oh yeah.
Pieces too.
Yeah, I mean, that's when we had a full like production team, so things are different now. Normally, like when there's like an artist, there's a penciler, an inker, a colorist, a letterer, and a writer, and then you have like a managing editor and a regular, whatever. Now it's a little more streamlined. You still have your pencilers and your inkers, but they're mostly kind of geared towards, I want to say they're working on the Marvel side of things when they got bigger budgets. But now things are kind of streamlined, that a lot of artists are kind of like either, doing their pencils or inks themselves, and then, or either, pencil or just doing pencil or digital pencils. A lot of it's digital now. So they'll do like I was just talking to an artist, another buddy of mine who's an artist, and we were just kind of figuring out, like, because we want to work on something together. And I'm just like, yeah, well, just do like, you can just do like some rough kind of pencil stuff or tighter, whatever, and I can finish it. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. So, and so it's only basically, it's come down to like, one or two guys doing the art nowadays, and then being that, we have like Kickstarters and crowdfunding or whatever, we have a little bit more time rather than being on a monthly schedule. That's why I think you also have these guys that are, you have the pencil inker or whatever, and you're on a monthly schedule.
Right.
And to get, the 20, 22 pages done within a month to, to work on a series, that's like the go-to schedule pretty much. So, but now that things are, in my career, I'm a little more picky and choosy about stuff, and I kind of like do it stress free. We schedule stuff. We're like, all right, well, we'll do this, and this, and then kind of keep everybody going. And then once we get to a comfortable position, we'll get to that point of, releasing it or doing a Kickstarter, and then usually at the the last. Always, because artists are lazy. They like to wait to the last minute on stuff. But luckily, I mean, I work with a good group of guys that we can hammer out shit really, really fast. And I have great confidence in the guys I work with that we can get shit done, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it seems like your work has been shifting into, I mean, you talk about heavy metal and kind of the vibrant colors and even the horror of it, and you seem to be gearing more towards the horror side as well.
Yeah, I mean, even from the days of McFarlane, because when we were working on Spawn and all the spin-offs and stuff like that, there was the typical Spawn style, right?
Right.
And then Todd, all these other books that I was working on, they were all in the same universe. But he's like, I don't want it to look anything like Spawn. He's like, I wanted more muted, creepy, I want horror. You know what I mean? So that was beaten into me by right when I stepped into the gate. So I kind of had that label on me right out the gate. Kind of thing that we all kind of geared towards the more creepier, monotone kind of style stuff, and then that's what I love too. So it's just an easy fit for me.
Right.
And then it just translated to all the other stuff that I've, worked into, like even with IDW, I've been working with them for, almost 20 years as well, on like Lock and Key is a big one, like Godzilla, Transformers, 30 Days a Night.
Yep.
Pretty much everything IDW was putting out, I was able to get my hands on. I was really lucky working with them. I had a really because like they kind of like I guess refurbished the whole company, and everybody that I was working with, or even like Ted Adams and Robbie Robbins, who owned the company, sold it. And at that point, everybody was like either getting fired or laid off, or they just left. So I haven't done much work with them lately. I mean, I could if I want, I guess, I just make an email and just say, hey, I'm available to do stuff or whatever. Cause I know one of my other friends is actually became the editor-in-chief there now. So it's just a matter of contacting them and going like, hey, I'm available if anything comes up, so, but I've been pretty content with just doing my own thing, which is great. I mean, and just way less stressful than how it used to be years ago, that's another thing, like going back to, that's because I teach classes on Thursday night, and that's going to be my opening. We usually have an opening discussion at the beginning of the class of what we talk about and stuff like that. And one of the things I'm going to bring up tomorrow is what we'll talk about: social media and marketing yourself and blah, blah, blah. And then also about being a young artist, or creator or whatever, is that my mindset back in the day, going back like 10, 15 years ago, that my mindset was never say no. And it bit me in the ass a few times, but I think it worked out in the end because I just did so much work. I was at one point I was doing like 2 or 3 books a month, so but I put my stamp on a lot of different projects across a lot of different stuff. But then I want to convey that to my students, like, if something comes up, do it. always say yes if there's an opportunity on something, because it always leads to something else,
Right.
So I don't know where I was going with that, but
Yeah.
I think I want to say about, I guess, how I am now, that I'm a little more picky and choosy and a little more laid back, not as stressed out, is that, growing into it from how I
Right.
was back then.
Now, do you think that it's obviously different, especially when you work with independent, that you have that more, I don't want to say lax, but you have that ability to expand upon things and have like the best product out there versus like you have to have this deadline of.
Oh yeah. I mean, because like with the Kickstarter stuff that I've been doing for the past few years, it's the stuff that I kind of always wanted to do, but it was either like a really hard sell, or wasn't feasible for a publisher to do it because it was just too much money, or whatever. So I mean, the whole Kickstarter platform gave me, along with I think a ton of other creators, to do whatever the fuck you want to do, and then do it in a way that no publisher or distributor or anybody can do it.
Right.
Case in point, like when you have stretch goals and add-ons and all this extra stuff you could do, there's no way you can do that through a publisher or distributor. Like even back in the day, like when we were putting out 68 through Image Comics, that's that zombie Vietnam series that we did, like little things here and there, like, oh, wouldn't it be cool? Can we like, give a sticker, or, do something, or, whatever. And they're like, well, they charge you, like you get the stickers and they charge you like 25 cents for them to take the sticker and put it on the book. And then they have to shrink wrap it. And that costs this and that costs this. And it's kind of a big process. And it's just like, I'm like, it's not even worth it,
Right. Yeah.
So just to do like extra stuff like that, you couldn't,
Right.
and you still can't, but with Kickstarter, we can just like, throw in there, I have extra books here that like, hey, I'll give away free books. We'll do contests and pull numbers out of a hat and win this and win that. And it's just something like added extra stuff to bring more value to your campaign. And I think a lot of people like that, and the thing is, you just, with Kickstarters and all that kind of stuff, you just have to have that, that mindset of like, you got to, and I've always been like this. I've always been like this. When any project that I do is like, when do you need it by? And I get it to them at that date, so when I say you're going to get it by a certain time, you're going to get it by that time, and you're going to get all the, I like to say that my word is my bond in a way, and I just know there's a lot of guys out there, or I've heard a lot of stories that people have backed Kickstarters and they never got what they, backed, or, whatever. And, that upsets me because, or anybody that is trying to, do this stuff, that people are a little wary about backing you because of that. Right. So, so I think, I don't know, I'm going to be doing my 9th one coming up in about a month or so. So I think I got somewhat of a decent following, or a backing, that they know every time I do one, you're going to get it, and you're going to get it on time. And, so that's a big thing too,
Yeah, I work in independent horror movies, and we use Indiegogo and Kickstarter for our campaigns. And it's interesting because you're able to really connect with the fans, I say, a lot more than you've ever been able to.
Oh yeah. Because they could text me or whatever to write to me,
Yeah. And it's, I think it's great because then you're also able to show them work in progresses. Here's the pages, and it's a way to, you talk about, Kickstarter's not being funded and never delivering, but it's a way to kind of show them, it's like you are working on this.
Doing updates.
And it's a proof of concepts live essentially for them. I think it's just amazing that you're able to do this in today's world, because back in the day, you'd have to go to the comic store and go, okay, maybe I know this artist, maybe I know this comic. I just gonna, maybe able to read it and spend my couple bucks on it. But now you're able to hone in on stories you like, on artists you like, and creators you like, and it's just a whole new world.
Yeah. I mean, it puts a lot of responsibility on the creators, right? Because normally, back working for publishers or putting books through Image, it was just like, all right, we're done. Here you go. You guys deal with the rest. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, but with doing Kickstarters or whatnot, it's just like, all right, you make the project, you got to do the campaign, and once you make your goal or whatever, then you have to fulfill it, and you got to do all the shipping, and then it's doing everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then because we got, for some reason, Arizona is a mecca for comic book creators and whatnot. I mean, because I got Brian Pulido right over here, and I got Todd McFarlane right over there. So I got all these guys all around me, and other artists and whatnot. And if you follow Pulido and the Lady Death and Coffin Comics and all that stuff, like he's like somewhat of the pioneer of the Kickstarter game. I wouldn't say the pioneer, but he's one of the big guys that he's dialed it in, and he has a really big production. Like he has a ton of people working for him, and it's like a little small army that he's got. And in my case, I'm like a one-man show. Right. So that's why, he does like whatever, like 6 or 8 of them a year, and I'll lucky if I do 2. Right. So I'm pushing it with 2. So, but that's enough to kind of keep me busy and just able to do, some cool stuff that I always wanted to kind of do. And luckily I've had, with 68, like we just put out this slipcase edition of the Ultimate Omnibus book. And like I said, this 68, we started this in 2007.
Okay.
So, and we kind of wrapped it up like in early 2010 or 11, 12, or maybe 12 around. So it's kind of been in limbo for about 10 years. And we never had the opportunity to collect all the stuff. So, and then now we did, so now we were able to put this out, and then, but not saying we are going to put out, like, this was like more of a specialty book. It had, it has all the creators signed it. And then we did this through Kickstarter, but we're going to do a soft cover edition, and that's going to go through mass market through Image Comics.
Oh, wow.
So that'll be like the cheaper version. I mean, this was expensive. It was like $125 book or whatever when we launched it. And then like the one that we do through Image, I got to get with Eric Stevenson, and we're going to talk about pricing and, do we want to do a slim down version? Like this has all the extras and covers and all that kind of stuff. And do we want to just do like a real kind of like, we just want something on a shelf. So if anybody wants to find it at Barnes and Nobles or Amazon or whatever and get it at a really cheap price, do we slim it down and just keep it to just a story and, get rid of all the bells and whistles kind of stuff. And then just kind of leave that to when we did this book, so,
yeah.
So I'm going to have a discussion with him and try to figure that out and try to figure out what costs, because it's a 907-page book. They're not, it's not going to be a cheap book,
right?
But to try to get it, reasonable,
right? Yeah. I mean, I like over here. I have all my trade paperbacks and omnibuses of the Essential X-Men and Spider-Man. Those aren't cheap.
No.
As is.
But like I said, we just want to do a version that anybody can get anywhere at any time. Even having distributing, overseas in UK and Canada. So it'll be available. Like these books, we only did a Kickstarter for it, and we didn't print that many of them, so we'll sell them at conventions, and you can only pretty much get it straight from us. We're not going to make them available any other way. So, which is good in a way, because we can make better money off of it because we're not dealing with any distributor costs and
all the
publishing
overhead,
fees and whatever. So it works really good for the creators that way.
Right.
But again, like I said, just to kind of, it's not a cheap book, so we want to get something out there because we are developed. We have a people that are developing 68 and do like a TV series. Hopefully, it's been going on for years now. So, hopefully something will happen in the next. I mean, they were supposed to have a big meeting this month, and with Netflix and. LA burnt down, so
still is, yeah.
Yeah, so they kind of postponed their. It's a second meeting. They had one originally. They were developing it for an animated, like adult animated series.
Yeah. Okay. Like the Castlevania that they did.
Well, I want to see. I really like Blue Eye Samurai.
Okay.
If you ever seen that, I don't think they were going to go that direction, but like when I saw that, it's it's very violent and it's adult. 68 is an adult book, and that's the one thing that we're pitching, that this is an adult animated series. There's going to be blood, there's going to be guts, all that stuff. It's it's zombies during the Vietnam War. You can't dull that down, I don't think.
Right. So, Vietnam War was atrocious as it was.
Yeah. So they were pitching it as an animated series because the cost, it's a lot cheaper to do animation. So they shopped it around a bunch of different places, and then Netflix liked it, but they're not doing animation stuff, for what I was told. Or not doing any more animated stuff, but they want to do a live action. And they were interested in that. So then we're supposed to go back to them this month and get geared up and pitch them with a live action version of it. So, I mean, they have all the producers, the showrunners, the writers, everybody's there. It's just getting somebody on board to give it the green light. Yeah, give it the green light. And then everybody they talk to, or anybody that knows 68, it's like a no-brainer. It's been like, how long it's been almost 20 years since we've been working on it. Everybody's just like, duh, why isn't this a movie yet? Why isn't this, because the concept is really strong. So
yeah,
we'll see. It's Hollywood. I'm not a huge Hollywood guy.
Yeah.
They give us updates every month, or whenever something happens, they give us an update. And I kind of tell them, like, just don't blow any shit up my ass. Just give it to me straight. What's going on. I don't need to know that so and so really liked it, and whatever. Just say, all right, well, what are you guys doing? Where are you going? Where's the meeting? Blah blah blah. That kind of stuff. So
yeah. It's something, like I said, especially in the indie horror world that we work in, distribution rights and getting it out there. It's the same thing. Same side of the coin. And we have a pitch deck for a TV show that we want to do. We're trying to talk to people, and it's just getting the right people in front of the project.
We got everybody lined up. Like I said, we got some good guys. We got a few producers, and we got there's 2 showrunners working together on this, and one of them's a writer who's written a few shows before, and so there's a good group of people that are in the game with it. So we're confident that they know what they're doing,
right?
But it's just it's the old hurry up and wait, Hollywood shit, So and I've been through that a bunch of times before, working on different stuff. I mean, a few different books I've worked on, like Wynonna Earp and was it V Wars turned into a series on Netflix. Well, a couple Lock and Key obviously turned into a series on Netflix, and that just took fucking forever. And Lock and Key was, it had 3 different pilots or 2 different pilots done before Netflix picked it up.
Okay.
So I mean, the first pilot they did, I think it was I think Fox picked it up, and they shot this pilot, and they spent millions of dollars on this pilot. And I think you can look it up. It's somewhere. And it was done really well. And I'm like, fuck, this looks really, really good. I'm like, obviously they're going to do it, right? And then something happened, and the president got fired or whatever, and then they decided to pass on it after, So I'm like, you spent all this money. I mean, they built this house and millions of dollars they spent, and then they just like, nah, we're not gonna do it. And then I think Hulu was gonna pick it up. And then Hulu did a pilot as well, which I've never seen, which I got to get Chris Rael, I think, has a copy of it. But they did another pilot, and then they passed on it. And then finally Netflix picked it up, and then boom, they did 3 seasons with it, And then granted, it's not bad. I don't know if you've seen it, or if you know the books at all, but the TV show is a little more Harry Potter crowd, and the book.
My wife watched it. Yes.
Okay. And then, but the books are way more adult, way more, anybody that I meet on the streets that has read the books and seen the show, they like the books better. And I'm like, oh, cool, thanks. And I get it because, the fans of the book are, usually adults reading it. And then when they go into watching the show, and I understand why they did it, they need the demographics, right? And it makes perfect sense. But any hardcore fan, likes the adult side of it more, I think, like me, or and all the other like Joe and Gabe and Chris and everybody that we worked on together with it. So but I mean, quality show. I mean, you can't like go, it wasn't good, it was good, but I mean, there were differences, that people might go or because I've met people that only watch the show, and I'll be at a convention and I'll have some Lock and Key stuff, and they're like, oh, is this Lock and Key the TV show? And I'm like, yeah, it's based off of our books. They didn't even know, you know what I mean? So I get a lot of those too. So
now with even going to 68 without disclosing anything you can't talk about, do you have the option to do creature designs for the show as well?
At this point, I mean, we would love to get involved, because I mean, if anybody, like when they start getting into that production side of it, I am definitely gonna like raise my hand and go, hey, Dave, I need to like really make sure you guys are not make sure, because I'm sure we're gonna have to sign a contract and sign everything over to them in a sense. But I'm guessing with the team that we work with, and they see what we've done, and they've seen like if anybody's seen any of my props and stuff that I've made at conventions, like I have like life-size zombies and all this kind of crazy shit, that they're like, oh, this guy knows. It's not like, well, they just put out a comic book. No, like we built a world with, like I said, I have like 5 different life-size zombies that I bring out to like conventions and props and all this kind of crazy shit that, look realistic, and of the era. And I've used right down to like their uniforms and everything, that it's all of the era. I did my, I pulled everything off of eBay. Like I needed this or that or whatever. And I made sure it was all Vietnam era stuff, or whatever. And then, and I'm all about like, and Nat Jones is the same way too, is we like our shit dirty. Like we like we'll have some, like it was funny last year at Phoenix Fan Fusion, we have a big booth set up there. We have a couple zombies, and I have some other stuff there too. And some guy was dressed up as Jungle Jim. He's one of the characters out of the book. He's actually on the back of the book here. This is Jungle Jim right here.
Yeah.
And he's like kind of our Captain America meets Rambo in a gas mask that just kills every friggin' zombie. Everybody loves Jungle Jim. So there's always a few guys that dress up and whatever. And then they come up and they take pictures with the zombies and us and whatever.
Yeah.
And then we always talk about their costumes or whatever. And I'm like, hey, dude, you need to like roll around in the mud, or you need to like
it's too clean.
You're too clean. You need to get like, really dirty yourself up. Because I got a couple of zombies over here, but I mean, they definitely look like they rolled out of just coming out of a dirt pit, so
right.
And that's that's one. I don't know where I was going with that, but I was just
I mean they should look at you because you did creature designs for the
yeah. Well,
and Black Friday, right?
Yeah. So like with Robert Kurtzman, who's the old KMB effects guys, back in the Evil Dead and Army of Darkness and all that stuff. We did Mark Kidwell is buddies with him, and then every once in a while we do a lot of concept art. Because he'll get like a job that like, oh, we're doing these guys want to do a Bigfoot movie. They need some concept art. And then Mark and I will do the concept art or, and then some like big stuff will come along. Like Haunting the Hill House was, to be honest, when that first came to us, we're like, oh, they're redoing that Liam Neeson shit. Really? They're going to redo that again? So we kind of didn't really put a lot of effort into it, other than like there's a list of, we designed all the ghosts for like Bent Neck Lady and all that stuff. Yep. So when we were getting all the notes for it and going like, well, there's this guy and there's Smiley Face guy. Remember the guy that was in the wood?
Yeah.
So you only saw like a second of him, but we probably did like 6 different versions of him and Bent Neck Lady and the guy that was in the basement that was all burnt up and the real tall skinny guy that was floating around and there was quite a few other ones. But at that time we're like, all right, yeah, whatever. Then it came out and we're like, holy shit, this is good, right?
Yeah.
So it blew me away. And then to the point of like, because like we made prints of some of the designs we did, and like we kind of went back in and like touched them up to make them look nicer, because they were kind of done half-ass in a way, just to kind of get them out. But and then like Black Friday was fun
because I Black Friday reminded me a lot of the original Evil Dead creature design.
Oh yeah, and that's all Robert, right? So his son actually plays one of the mutated guys or whatever. But yeah, that was a lot of fun because I mean, it was kind of a pain in the ass again, because when you're dealing with movies and there's all these producers involved, everybody has an opinion. Right. So we've probably the one main, was it the grandmother, the old lady? I forgot what it was.
Yeah, there's an old lady that turned into
and we must have redid her like 10 times. And because like all the different producers had like one version of it needs to look like this or more like this or more like that, So there's so many different versions of the stuff made. Right. And Robert was kind of funny because he's like, dude, just do what they ask. And I'm just going to do what I do. I'm just going to do whatever I want when I actually go to make it. so like they would just approve, like what we did with the art. And then Robert would be like, he would just kind of blow it off in a way. I mean, it wouldn't stray off from what we did, but he already knew like, well, I'm still going to do it this way,
right.
Because they either like the producers or whatever just don't know the process of, well, it needs to be this color, or this needs to be and you're like, no, it doesn't matter because of the lighting and this, that, and the other thing, whatever color it's going to be whatever lighting you have on it,
Right.
If there's red or blue or whatever kind of low lighting or whatever, you're not going to see all these really stupid details that they were asking for,
Right.
And Robert knew that. So he knows how to play the game with, all right, do what they ask, let them, just make them happy. And then I'm just going to do whatever the fuck I'm going to do anyway, So, he's been in the game a long time. He knows how to do stuff, but, yeah, I got to get back with him soon. I haven't talked to him in a while. We got to do something soon.
Yeah.
Because he's fun to work with. So,
yeah, I mean, that, like I said, our micro budget that we work with, I work with people that I can because, I have ideas. I'm not an artist. I have a trilogy of a horror movie I want to do. And I'm just kind of toying around with a cryptid called Owlman.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to figure out ways to make it look good without spending stupid amounts of money on really just the mask.
Yeah. No, there's a bunch of guys out there, right? So Somebody just asked,
That's James.
we got more puzzles.
Puzzles.
Yes, we do. And we'll talk about that in a second. I got a new one right here. I don't. There's so many guys. I mean, again, Arizona is a melting pot for artists and whatever. I'm like, one of my buddies, he's the guy that actually helps me build all my props because he has a full-on shop. It's Midnight Studios FX.
Okay.
And then he's across town over, and he has the full-on, like I have that full-size horse mannequin thing. Like, he's got, because all the inside of that's all welded up metal. And then as a frame, so he's able to do all that stuff there, and he does all the casting and all that stuff there. He has all the facility. No, I'll do all the finishing stuff here in my garage.
Yeah,
I'll do all the little nooks and crannies stuff, but all the heavy lifting shit we'll do over there. And he's really cool. I learned how to do all that stuff from him. Like when I have my downtime, I like volunteer and I'll help him out. Because he gets really busy, like around because he does a lot of haunts and stuff.
Okay, yeah.
So he gets really super busy, and he's always asking for help and blah blah blah. If I have some time, I'll come over and he taught me putting hair on masks and all kinds of crazy shit. So I learned from the there's another head back here that I sculpted and everything from head to toe here with him, and I learned a lot with him. So that's a fun thing, but it's dirty and it's hot, and well,
if you're in Chicago, it's not hot. So.
Yeah, no, but when you're in 115, you're in 115 Arizona weather, and then you're like pouring latex and foam, and you do it. We're outside when we're doing this shit, so it sucks. That's why he's like, dude, you need to hire like a 19-year-old kid to do all this grunt work. Give me the fun shit. I mean, I can sit there and I'll lay some hair for a couple hours and just chill out and do that. But so
I may have to hit you up when we get closer to our owl man. I said I need a good mask. That's
really I mean, he might even have something like already halfway, because he's really good about because he has like a huge library of all these different head sculpts and stuff that he's done. And then you're like, oh, I really like this and I really like this. Is there any way to combine it? And he's like, yeah, then he can like do it,
right.
And then because he does a lot of suits, like full like werewolf suits and all this kind of crazy shit, for movies and stuff. Like every once in a while, I'll be watching some kind of movie and I'm like, holy shit, that's Kyle's head, or that his name's Kyle.
We actually might be using him for our werewolf costume that we're doing here later this year.
So have you heard of him?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. So Kyle at Midnight Studios FX, So he's a good buddy of mine.
Yeah, it's just amazing work that people are able to do nowadays. It really took it took the FX that exists in Hollywood, now made it so people are able to do it for cosplays even.
Oh yeah. I mean that's why I kind of got into building all my stuff. Is back in the day, when you go to usually a comic convention, you go to Artist Alley, you just go down these alleyways of different artists, and they just have all their they have like a pop-up sign and their stuff displayed, and it's kind of the same shit over and over and over again. And then at that time, about 15 years ago, I noticed people walking around with cosplay, and everybody's like stopping, hey, can I take your picture, can I take it, whatever. I'm like, I'm like, oh, why don't we just build a zombie, stick it in our booth, and then people like come take pictures with them. And then they go, oh, this is cool. What is this? Oh, this is 68. And then you give them the pitch and they're like, oh, this is cool. And you sell them a book, and it kind of snowballed from there. Like the next year we built another zombie, and then we had a Jeep, and then we had like 3 zombies, and then we built like this bamboo cage that people can get in. And then we had like a bunker with a machine gun in it.
Oh, wow.
All this crazy shit. Because every year we're like, all right, we got to do something new. We got to top it, whatever. And then we had this big in Phoenix Con. We had like a big 20 by 20 space of just cool zombie shit.
Yeah,
it was fun.
Yeah, I love going to these cons and meeting people too, especially like for our indie horror stuff, for body parts, for stuff like that, to get the best looking you can for the budget that we have.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
You know, everyone's like, oh, I can get a styrofoam head from Michael's for $10. You can.
Yeah.
It looks like a styrofoam head.
Yeah, yeah. No, but I mean, you can get really creative
Yeah,
with some of that stuff. You know what I mean? So, I mean, half of the shit I have here that, like, you know, and funny you say Michael's, because like that big horse that I have, like they're like, oh my God, what is it? What is this made of? And I'm like, most of it's shit from Michael's. You know, it's like because it's all like vines and all this goopy shit and whatever. It's like spray foam and you know, those big like reefs you see at Michael's, those vine reefs or whatever.
Yeah.
I bought one of those and just unstrung it and kind of wove it around and, you know, whatever. And then spray foam and all this crap, you know, logs and sticks and shit you find in the yard and just stick it on there and it works, you know?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, as I said, it's interesting what people are able to do nowadays. And, you know, if my wife let me, I would probably get into stuff like that too. She's probably not going to let me. But
yeah. No, it's fun. I mean, because as a guy that works on a computer all day, I like getting my hands dirty. So if there's an opportunity to build something or make something or whatever, I usually jump on it. So
yeah, that's awesome. So Jay, before we get into these wrap-up questions, I want to give you the opportunity to talk about your next Kickstarter you have going on there, anything that you're working on.
Yeah. So the last one we had was this one was we delivered it towards the end of the year last year, and then right after we did the Rising Rebels, we did a Rising Rebels puzzle. And the reason why I really dig these, I found this company, and they make these like high-end, like really cool puzzle sets, I guess, if you want to call it. You know, it comes with a bag and a poster, and you're able to design it. It's got a magnet closure and all that kind of stuff. So you're allowed to like customize it and do some really cool stuff with it, right?
Yeah.
So I did one with Rising Rebels that I just delivered out last month or a few weeks ago. Everybody got their stuff. And then obviously, like, I want to do like a series of these based off of different projects. So the next one, this is the production. What's cool about this company is that I'm able to get like a production sample. So you can actually get a sample of it, and I can show it off to people, you know, before we're actually going to production. So this is a 68 one, which is, you know, it looks like an army crate, you know, ammo crate, and there's the artwork. Nat Jones and I did the artwork. And then and again, like I said, it's really, you can customize it or come up with some really cool stuff that, you know, looks like an old ammo box, right? And then it has like a burlap bag that has all the puzzle pieces in it. And then you get, you know, a fold up poster of the art, you know, that you get with it too. And then, you know, the inside of the box,
man,
you know, it's all bloody and it has all the spot gloss in it. So it looks like it's all wet. You know what I mean? So if you can see it.
Oh, yeah. I love it.
So it looks really, really cool. So I'm keen on these because they're just fun to do. And, plus I'm not saying they're easy, but production wise, you know, I'm putting these together myself. So it's not like I'm waiting and working with other guys. And so I could get these out relatively quick. So this is going to be the next one. I'm really excited about this one. And then I got a few other ones that I want to do out and just kind of do a whole series of these, we're calling them like artist edition premium puzzles, right? So and then we have all the cool add-ons, and you know, you can get like a 3D print with it. You can get like sketches from us too.
Oh, wow.
So it's you know, like I said, with the Kickstarter stuff, it's very customizable, and you can give it away. You can include a lot of extra cool stuff with this, you know, with this stuff. So that's why they're a lot of fun, and you can be a little more creative on all the extra stuff, you know. So
that's awesome. It's ideas like that like I'm trying to do with our movie company to get merch and products out there that we're trying to expand and grow, and not just make movies and just have, you know, shirts, or you know, and stuff like that too. I'm working with a local guy in this area to make like enamel pins for us and try to get him in the indie community, because why not work with indie support indie,
Yeah, I mean, again, and like a big thing is like when you're doing conventions and stuff, that's for freelance guys or creators like me. That's a something that we kind of count on for income. So every year when we do our bigger shows like Phoenix or Tucson or LA or wherever, that every year, a lot of guys don't go to the comic book shops, or they don't like really seek out what you're doing, but they know every year you're going to be there. So every year they walk up and they go, "Oh, what's new?" And I go, "Bop, bop, bop." And they're like, "All right, I'll take it."
Yeah.
And then that's kind of common, that we have these guys that are returning every year, that they don't really go shopping till they come to the conventions,
Right.
So and then then you have all your people that will get your stuff online, or and all that. So yeah, it's a big part of it. I mean, same thing I teach to my students is like, we all live in these caves, our offices, or, wherever, your studio or whatever.
Yeah.
And you have to get outside of that, because you have to build a fan base, and you have to get people to buy your stuff, and then you got to get people to like you. And, and I'm not saying in the vain sense of like you, but more of like you, that they want to support what you're doing,
right.
And that's important, and a lot of these kids kind of don't get that, so I have to like kind of drill it in there. They kind of think, well, I'll just make my comic book and put it online and do a digital comic. Like, no,
and then someone will find me.
Yeah, no. I'm like, you got to get out there. You got to tell your story. You got to, you got to do this. Got to go to the conventions. You got to, get into, the local scene where all the other creators, everybody knows each other. And when you're doing the conventions and you get to talking to people and you learn, and, it's you're just growing as an artist with all these other artists too, so everybody has their own little niche, but, and everybody's different. Everybody kind of does their own thing, but we're all in that same, on that same plane, so.
Yeah, I was telling the guys I work with, I go, essentially, because we're indie horror. I go, when we make a movie and it's out, we can put it up on Tubi or Amazon or Shudder if they'll take it. I go, but these cons are our press tours essentially.
Yeah. And you set up like little mini screenings, or do whatever, and that could be so much fun to do. And even if you're like having a screening at your house in your garage or something like that, just to have all your buddies come over and whatever, that's fun, right? So even if you're not making really any money, you want to try to make a couple bucks here and there, but I think that's why we love doing this stuff. Is if you're able to create something and put something out yourself, it just adds to why we love doing what we do.
Oh yeah. And I before doing, I did 2 cons now so far in the past 4 months, and for me, I'm like, I have this show, I have podcasts, but I'm like, go out there, talk to people. If you asked me 5 years ago if I'd want to talk to people, the answer is no. But now, as I have something to promote, to sell myself essentially in the show, it's been awesome. I love it.
Yeah, and you just meet people, and and you got, now we're buddies, and anybody, you got to ask me something, or I got to ask you something, or whatever. It's just getting your networking and just getting yourself out there more, So, it's huge. And, no matter how small of a podcast you are, or how big your podcast you are, or whatever, the more you do, the more content you have. And, from what I hear, from what I understand, is content, that's content, that you just got to have more and more content. You got to build it. You know what I mean? So, and sometimes it takes forever, sometimes it takes a long time. And, but if you love it, it's not work,
right.
I mean, a lot of this stuff, like, I won't really make any money on, but I look at it and I go, oh, that's cool. And I like how this came out, or this is cool. And, whatever. Like the first Rising Rebels, I think I lost a little bit of money on that one, but knowing that I have extra, that I could sell at conventions, I'm like, oh, I'll make my money back. I'm not worried about it,
Right.
And then some, but I think the 68 one will do okay. And again, it's like having new product at conventions because I try to do as many conventions as I can. Like Phoenix, like I said, for some reason it's a mecca here between conventions. I mean, because we have like Mad Monster, we have like 4 different horror conventions here. It's crazy.
Wow.
And then we have like Tucson, which is only an hour and a half away. They have a bunch of shit going on down there all the time. So I'm bopping back and forth and. There's plenty of stuff around here. Always something going on.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, for some odd reason, let me ask you this: where are you now?
Chicago.
All right. Within, let me say, like, how many comic book shops do you have in, like, you think in Metro Chicago area?
Now,
yeah,
I couldn't tell you. If you asked me 20 years ago, a shit ton.
Okay. I mean, can you count it?
From my, I mean, I'm like 2 towns away from Chicago, so a suburb of Chicago.
Okay.
But I would say within my immediate area, there's now only 2 to 3.
Really? Okay. That's not too bad. I mean, here we have like 20. It's crazy.
Oh, wow.
We have a lot. I mean, I'm in Tempe, Arizona, which is like a college town, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, offhand, there's probably 4 in Tempe, I think.
Oh, wow.
Alone, then there's Metro Phoenix and Mesa and all these other, counties around us, so, I mean, Phoenix is a huge city. I mean, I get it, but yeah, for some reason, and there's just a lot of creators that live out here too. Like I said, McFarlane's out here, Brian Polito's out here, 2 big guys, and a bunch of other local guys here that are all artists, maybe because it's not so cheap now, but it used to be really cheap to live here, know, but maybe that was another thing is that, artists, oh, well, I can, rent's not too expensive out here. So I'll move out to Arizona or something,
but I'm sure it's cheaper than LA.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah.
All right. So Jay, let's get into these wrap up questions here.
Sure.
And I can see, it looks like you have a Creature from Black Lagoon tattoo on your arm.
Yes, I'm working on a full sleeve of all the monsters that have inspired me. And I'm working on my Godzilla one. I have a big Godzilla on my arm
nice.
here.
Yeah.
I'm going back to finish that at the end of this month. But then I got a Creature. I got Mighty Joe Young. I got King Kong on the back here. Medusa from Clash of the Titans, the original Clash of the Titans. Captain Howdy right here. And then nobody can ever get these guys right here. I don't know if you can see them. But when I was a kid back in the 70s, you ever see Don't Be Scared of the Dark?
Yes.
The original TV one that came out on like CBS or something like it was like a TV show or whatever. That scared the living fuck out of me when I was a kid. Like to the point of like when I went to bed, like I was in like a twin bed, right? So I would try to sleep and just at dead center of the bed, knowing that these little demons couldn't like reach me coming over the bed, kind of thing. And like Salem's Lot, that's another one, so my whole arm, so I'm kind of gearing towards more of the late 60s, 70s stuff, and then going into the 80s and current for my arm.
Yeah, I love that because I do have Jason Voorhees, I have Chucky, I have Mike Myers.
See, that's not everybody asks me, I'm like, oh, are you gonna get a Jason? I'm Jason, that's my name. No, I'm not gonna get a Freddy, I'm not gonna get a Jason, I'm not gonna do Michael Myers or any of that. I'm doing all these kind of weird, obscure stuff. Like, like I said, I'm going to do a Salem's Lot, but I'm not going to do the Salem's Lot. I mean, I do have Nosferatu there, the original, right?
Yeah.
So, but I'm not going to do the Salem's Lot. What's his name? What was the name of the vampire? Help me out here. Do you know?
Oh,
somebody message that in really quick.
I can't remember off the top of my head.
But he didn't scare me so much. What scared the fuck out of me was the kid at the window going, let me in. You remember that?
Yeah.
So yeah. That scared the shit out of me. So that's going to be on my arm. You know, the kid at the window. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So really obscure, weird shit that like I said, what started it off, you know, when I was a kid, you know, the Godzilla, King Kong, you know, I even thought, you remember, you ever see Babes in Toyland,
yes,
March of the Wooden Soldiers?
Yep.
The Bogeyman, like those scared the fuck out of me. I'm gonna get a Bogeyman tattoo on me, and then people are gonna be like, "What the fuck is that?" You know, like a lot of these people don't even recognize, you know. And I'm like, so mine are just gonna be kind of like really weird, obscure.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing I'm gonna have to bleed over to my other arm, but I thought about doing more cartoony shit on this side, like Jabba Jaw and Hong Kong Phooey and Sigmund the Sea Monster and all kind of like Marty Krofft shit when I was a kid watching, you know, really weird stuff like that. You know, Thing. I know I gotta have the Thing. I know I gotta have American Werewolf in London. That was a big one for me. Yeah, so and then like little ones pop up like the other day, like I was saying, the Bogeyman. You know, because I didn't even think about it. Because usually they play it during the holidays, and you don't even. And you're like, oh shit, you know, because since I was born, I've watched that fucking movie. You know, and the Bogeyman always scared the crap out of me. Or in that one part when one of the soldiers walking through the door and his head comes off, that freaked the fuck out of me too. You know, but I'm like, I don't know how if I could pull that off as a tattoo, but the Bogeymen were cool, you know. But so yeah, just like weird shit like that I'll do.
Yeah, the upper half of my horror sleeve is all Evil Dead.
Oh really? Yeah.
All Evil Dead. Yeah,
like Evil Dead would be a good one, and like Toxic Avenger. I remember, you know, like when I was in early high school, you know, early mid '80s. When did Toxic Avenger come out? Like mid '80s.
Yeah.
I mean, that wasn't really a horror, but it was more of like over the top. Like we just laughed.
Yeah. It's
you know?
trauma. It's perfect.
Yeah. You know, I watched that movie 1,000 times, and we would just like that. And what's the other one? The other trauma one. I don't think it was Surf Nazis Must Die or.
There's Tromeo and Juliet. There's Kabuki.
Well, I'm talking about like mid '80s stuff.
Mid '80s.
There was another one that we would always used to watch. Maybe it was Street Trash. When did Street Trash come out?
Street Trash came out in like '85.
Did it? Yeah, maybe that was one of them. I got to research. Yeah, something will pop up. I'm like, oh yeah, I got to do one of that one. You know. So
yeah, but yeah,
I'm running out of room. So
yeah, so I'm done here. I have only this on this arm. This is going to be all Universal monsters.
Yeah.
Realistically, it's going to be a castle. That's a classic Universal with, of course, you have to have the cemetery in the woods. So I'm going to do all classic atmospheric.
Yeah, like even like, I mean, I have no desire to do like a Frankenstein or a Wolfman or maybe the Mummy. The Mummy I liked, but growing up, I was never really Creature from the Black Lagoon for sure. You know, it still holds up today. I think next to what is it, Bride of Frankenstein?
Yes,
I think is the better one of.
It is.
You know, but I was never really a huge Universal monsters other than Creature from the Black Lagoon. And then, you know, I have like my collection of Creature from the Black Lagoon figures and crap up on my shelf. That's what I kind of did because I have so much stuff that I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna dial it back and focus on like certain like Creature from the Black Lagoon, Godzilla, and then I just got one of NECA's American Werewolf in London, the 2-pack with Jack and what's his name, David. You know, the 2-pack.
Yeah.
And you know, I have all that stuff, and so I'm kind of dialing it down to just a few different genre or things I would like because it's just too much shit. Because I had like Boba Fett shit. I still got a couple Boba Fett stuff, but Boba Fett was my favorite. But then I dialed back on all that just so I can kind of focus on other stuff. But
right. Well, that all being
all
said,
nerdy, good nerdy stuff. You know.
All that being said, what's your favorite scary movie?
Ooh, Exorcist.
Exorcist?
Yeah, it's funny that I'm saying that because I just watched a documentary last night about it. I haven't watched the movie in a while, and usually everybody asks me, "Oh, like, what's your most favorite scary movie?" I would have to say X because every time I watch it, I get goosebumps. Okay. So it's the only movie that ever really kind of does that. For however many times I've seen it, still gives me goosebumps, you know. But again, like going back to like the shit that's on my arm, or we were talking about Salem's Lot and some of the other stuff, because like they'll, like even I gotta say that, and American Werewolf in London is up there. Yeah. For just the sheer brilliance of the mix of the comedy and the horror. I think, it's a perfect balance. It's such a good movie, right? So, but yeah, I have to go with The Exorcist, or Exorcist 3. I really like, and that's funny that when Todd's been trying to make a Sam and Twitch series or movie or whatever for fucking years and years and years. And I keep telling him, dude, watch Exorcist 3. And I actually bought him a DVD of it and gave it to him, like, fucking watch this.
Yeah.
I don't know if he ever did, but that mood and tone of how that movie is, with George C. Scott, you have the private investigator.
Yeah.
Just take him out of there, throw Sam and Twitch in there. That's how they should do Sam and Twitch. Just like that.
Because I thought there was talks or rumors that Kevin Smith was going to do one.
Yeah. I mean, this is probably the third time somebody's kind of jumped on with Sam and Twitch.
Yeah.
And again, it's that Hollywood,
Yeah.
Everybody, it got options, or this got this, whatever. And I'm like, okay, there's probably a 90% chance that nothing's going to happen to it.
I mean, or even the Sam and Twitch X-Files-esque.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and that's been his push the whole time, which makes perfectly good sense.
Yeah.
And it writes itself, but nobody has picked it up. I mean, he's having such a hard time with even Spawn, trying to get that made as a movie. You know what I mean? And with all the fanfare and all the people, it's been around for 30 years or whatever.
Yep.
That, why isn't anybody jumping on this? Or, so
because it'll never be as good as the animated ones.
Yeah, I guess, or again, it's Hollywood, so it's just a matter of somebody that gets it, that can pull the trigger on it. Todd has said many times that he would, worst comes to worst, he'll do it himself, but it does take millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. And, so we'll see. I'm hoping, I think the direction he wants to go with it is more really kind of a horror crime, theme.
Yeah.
Which that's the direction he wants to go, which I think is going to like kind of shock some people, or any hardcore Spawn fans are going to kind of get like, well, where's all the guns and the bullets and the, whatever, how come Spawn doesn't have like giant fucking shotguns coming out of his ears, whatever. Todd doesn't want that. He wants to make Spawn more of a kind of like the boogeyman, so it works great in a comic book, but, he was getting closer with it with Hellspawn, but, just the comic book, superhero side of it, just kind of overshadows, I think, what he really wants to do with it, or he's just matured, as you get older, and you're like, okay, how many times can you make this? How many guns can this guy carry? How many, what's bring him in an arena that really makes him, Todd's a big fan of horror and monsters and all that kind of stuff. So he wants to turn his character into this like really creepy monster,
right? And you have to have a scene where his head is split open and he has to use a shoelace to tie it back.
I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, but as a horror side, you can do almost a Darkman-esque piece of that too.
Yeah. Oh, we'll see. Again, I know what Todd's been going for. I mean, he's been, since I've been working for him from 25 years ago. He's always been talking about how he wants to bring Spawn in this different area, but again, it's that like, when somebody adapts a comic book and it's not like the comic book, or, how come Spawn doesn't have his red cape and the cowl, and because it looks goofy in real life, you know what I mean?
Right.
So, as he's walking around and he has a cowl and a cape, it looks goofy. You know what I mean? So, that's why they nixed the cape, only to use it for certain scenes when it shoots out of his back and he uses kind of like spider down a wall or whatever,
Yeah.
So so he did when you're coming to the comic book page and you're coming to like 2D to 3D, or things have to change, because it's just, and I think X-Men, the original X-Men, because anything before X-Men was awful, right?
Yeah.
So when X-Men came out, that changed everything. That made like, oh, let's make these superhero movies more realistic, more like, oh, this could really be, it's believable,
Right.
kind of thing. And they took away a lot of the superhero aspects of stuff out of it,
Yeah.
just whatever. So, and I think you have to do that with Spawn. And yeah, there's going to be a lot of knee jerk people going like, oh my God, he doesn't have a, whatever.
Right.
So, but I get what he wants to do. So there's going to be a transition there where people are going to go, oh my God, fuck yeah, that's great. Or people are going to, you can't make everybody happy,
Right. Oh yeah. You can almost do, like the special presentation 45-minute black and white version. You can have it as gory as you want with blood like that.
Yeah.
That'd be fun to see.
Yeah.
All right, Jay. So speaking of movies, stuff like that, I have to ask everyone, practical or CGI?
Oh, practical. Shit, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, as a guy that likes to make shit. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. And I think Hollywood is getting it too now, that they're kind of moving back to more practical effects, I think. Because I've seen a lot more movies now that are more practical effects, right? So I think that's going to turn around a little bit more, even though, like, you have these big, $350 million movies. Yeah, you got to use CG effects or whatever.
Right.
But even with, like, if we're talking about like 68, maybe if you're doing a zombie horde, yeah, I get it. You maybe do like the first few rows of real practical effects, and then everybody behind that is CG. I get it. They do it with Walking Dead, So yeah, I see a lot of practical. It makes a lot of sense to do like 68, mostly practical effects,
Right.
Plus it would be more fun, or whatever. But
so,
but again, I'm not, whoever writes the check and, whatever, that's going to be their decision. I mean, I know when we actually get to the point that we're signing shit over, that, the only number one rule we have as Mark and Nat and myself is that we hold on to all the publishing rights, that, they can't touch any of our shit, and we do whatever we want with it, and then, if they're going to cut us a check or, whatever, and we might have to bend over and take it, as long as we hold on to our publishing, we're okay.
Yeah.
Because anything that we do, regardless in a movie or whatever, it will only help us in our publishing. Because, we, for years now, we're like, all right, well, everybody loves Jungle Gym. We want to do more Jungle Gym. We've already have it in the wheelhouse, that like the pull the trigger as soon as something happens with 68, that we're like, all right, boom, we're coming out with a new Jungle Gym series or whatever. So, so we're ready to go, but we're just right now, like with the puzzle and the omnibus and stuff, that's just to kind of keep stuff out there without getting too crazy, with production kind of stuff, with actually producing more stuff. But once like a TV show or a movie or something happens, we have more backup that we can release a new series, and we were able to make a couple bucks off and pay our bills at least,
Right.
So, but I know we've been talking about it from the very, very beginning. And granted, we haven't done anything new with 68 for years, but knowing that, like, yeah, we got to do something new if something happens, and we're ready to go when it does. So,
right.
but and like I said, with the puzzle and the omnibus and stuff, it's just stuff to, it's there, it's new, it's kind of keeping in people's interest and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then when something does happen, we're ready to go to do some more stuff. So,
yeah. So Jay, with all the IPs that you've touched and that you talked about, even with TMNT and Spawn, is there any existing IP that you like would love to work in?
Well,
you haven't yet.
I was talking. I had dinner with Kevin Eastman, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I had dinner with him. He was out here he moved out here. He lives up in kind of North Phoenix or up there. So he moved back out here and he's building a house or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So he was down here for a convention and we met up for dinner, me and John Lehman and Chris Rael and Mike Malv. And we had dinner and then we went somewhere else to have a drink or something. Then we were walking around. But Kevin doesn't own TMT anymore, right? So
right.
It's all Nickelodeon. And I'm like, I would love to do a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but rated R. Because
like
when I
almost
worked,
like the Last Ronin.
Well, Last Ronin doesn't. I don't know how, because I haven't read it, but I mean, how violent does the Last Ronin get?
Not as much as you want. So I'm saying you can take that story, but ramp it up.
All right, but remember like Body Count with Simon Bisley and Kevin Eastman did?
Yeah.
Back in the maybe early 90s, I think it was, maybe, or mid 90s. But like because you're not allowed to have, I don't even know if the Last Ronin, does the Last Ronin even have any blood in it?
Yeah, it does.
It does? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because when I worked on all the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle stuff, we weren't allowed to do any blood.
Because it's all geared towards.
Yeah, it's all Nickelodeon
kids.
and whatever.
Yeah.
So I mean, I would love to do like a really hardcore, and maybe I need to revisit. I have to revisit the Last Ronin, but like a really hardcore. They're cutting fucking heads off, kind of shit. Kind of Teenage Mutant.
Given like the Daredevil Netflix treatment.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be a lot of fun. Godzilla. I mean, I worked on a bunch of Godzilla stuff, but again, I would like to get the closest thing I got to do was Godzilla in Hell, which was kind of on the fence there with like getting, whatever. But how cool would it be to like really have some blood and guts with Godzilla kind of stuff where he's fucking ripping heads off or something, or whatever, kind of over the top. I would like to do stuff like that, but like just bring it to the next level kind of thing.
So like a Destroy All Monsters meets Battle Royale.
Yeah, right. But I mean, but like limbs are getting ripped off,
right?
And there's blood and whatever kind of thing. Like I'm developing a like Mark Kidwell for years and years and years and years has been wanting to like, oh, we should do a werewolf book, and I'm like, it's been beaten into the ground. Everybody's done fucking werewolves. It's whatever, blah 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 blah. And then finally, I kind of came up with something that I really liked. And then I'm telling Mark, I'm like, Mark, I got this great idea for a werewolf thing. And he's like, man, I don't want to do a werewolf. I'm like, oh. So I'm like, you're gonna make me do this by myself now. So, but that's like another thing I want to do is a cool, because again, werewolves have been beaten to the ground. I think when it comes to storytelling and movies and whatnot. That like if I wanted to do something, it had to be something like fresh and new and something different, So
it's something that I've been tinkering in my head with, like, because we want to do with Horror Dads a vampire movie. I go, if we're doing a vampire movie, we have to do old school lore. We have to talk about like Nosferatu, but like the terrifying aspect of it.
What'd you think of Nosferatu?
Loved it.
I've seen it 3 times now.
Loved it.
And every time I watch it, I like it a little bit more. When I first saw it, I mean, I kind of went into it with the mindset of like, okay, this is going to be like a gothic tale. Yeah. I know how what's his name? The guy that directed it.
Robert Eggers.
I know his style. I know how it's going to be, whatever. And then the shock initially of like he has a fucking mustache,
Uh-huh.
and then because then my head spinning marketing wise, I'm like, oh, that's why they didn't show him, because everybody would have just fucking freaked out if they saw if he had a mustache, right? But
Yep.
it made complete sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as I'm watching the movie, I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. It makes sense to me. But like anybody that hasn't watched the movie and they're like, he's got a fucking mustache, I'm like,
Yeah.
well, you got to watch the movie because it really makes sense, and whatever. I mean, you could have gone a couple different directions with it, but maybe he didn't need the mustache because then you wanted to see more of how his teeth were, maybe,
Right.
or how his,
Yeah.
if he's scowling or whatever, you can really get a vibe
Mm-hmm.
of, other at the ending. I think that's the only really time you see his face, right? So
Yeah.
but his look I thought was really good. It's again slow, and then like a cousin of mine hit me up last week and we were talking. He's like, "Oh, I'm going to see Nosferatu." He's like, "Have you seen it?" I said, "Yeah." And he's like, "Well, what do you think?" And I'm like, "Well, when you go into it, just go into it with a kind of an open mind of like, this isn't Gary Oldman Dracula here. There isn't the blood and guts and
Yep.
things are flying and all these special effects and all that. It's nothing like that.
Yep.
It's just more of this. It's a gothic tale, and it's just mood and the
Yeah.
So I get it. Like I said, I watched it 3 times already now, and the more I watch it, I'm like, okay, I'm liking it more and more and more and more. Because there's a few things in the dialogue that I missed.
Mm-hmm.
That I caught watching it again. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. That makes
Right.
sense. The only one thing that I'm guessing everybody here have seen Nosferatu, and my wife, because my wife watched it with me the 3rd time we watched it, and she goes, and this is something you probably didn't realize too. Now you remember when Dracula is taking the ship,
Yep.
back to wherever I forgot the name of the town, the German town or whatever. But
Yeah.
then what's his name is on a horse and beats him back.
Yes.
Or like, and then so why didn't Dracula, take a horse and carriage rather than taking a boat? You know what I mean? That makes sense.
Because they wanted to do the plague boat.
Okay, but then you think about it, like if Dracula got a stagecoach with his, his coffin or whatever, anything that he had on this plague boat,
Yeah,
that basically all the rats were in his coffin, right?
Yep.
So couldn't that happen if he rolled up in the stagecoach and he just cracked open his coffin and all these rats came out? Wouldn't that be the same thing?
Yes and no.
Yeah. So my wife picked that up. I'm like, how the fuck did he beat him back on horse? And he's on a boat that he left prior. I think he left on a boat prior. So I don't know if he took a long route to get on a boat.
It's just because it's distance wise where he had to get to. So he had to take a horse and buggy to get to the shipyard first and foremost.
Yeah.
Set that up. Quite honestly, he had food for his trip. With all the
okay, yeah, because he had to eat or what, I guess. But again, I don't know, I guess.
Yeah.
At the same time, I'm like, all right, well, why did he take a boat when he could have really taken a stagecoach, and would he risk getting on a boat? Or I don't know.
Or maybe horses are afraid of him.
Well, it's just cooler that, I mean, the concept of him being on the boat and killing everybody on the boat and all that, then you had that Demeanor movie that was awful. Did you see that?
Oh, I loved it.
You did? Oh,
I loved it.
It could have been so much better. So much better.
It was better than Renfield.
Renfield was goofy. It's like goofy comedy, I guess, kind of, right?
Yeah.
I couldn't take Renfield seriously. I think they with the Demeanor, was it what was the movie title? It was
The Last Voyage of Demeanor.
Last Voyage of Demeanor, right? That they didn't really get. There was like this one scene where the captain was in his office or whatever on the boat, and it was a perfect opportunity for Dracula to kind of come in and give a little bit side of his story a little bit. And that never happened. It just made Dracula this killing machine. and never had any really like story of him at all in it. It was just more of like that. There was so many opportunities there to like, oh, cool, he's gonna come in, and then the captain and him are gonna have this fucking really cool dialogue, and he's gonna end up killing them, you know, whatever. And then you would get a little bit more backstory, or a little bit more of like even his mindset as he was on this boat coming to the, you know, the mainland of, you know, these are my plans. This is what I'm going to do, blah, 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 blah. And then, you know, and then he ends up just killing everybody on the boat or whatever. But I think they lost an opportunity there that it could have been a lot better. But
he was just a slasher.
Yeah. You know, and then, I mean, I'm a little bit more story driven, I guess, you know, that I want to know more about the character. And then, you know, then there's this flip side of him that he's just this, you know, lunatic vampire, you know, but then he does have this same thing with Nosferatu, you know, it's got more of a backstory to him and what it, you know, whatever. I think they could have went a little bit deeper with it. I mean, with like Bram Stoker's Dracula, they would weigh more back on his backstory or whatever, but they didn't go too much with Nosferatu. So, which, I mean, in hindsight, that movie was a ripoff of Bram Stoker's Dracula. You know, if anybody doesn't know this, you know, if anybody doesn't know the story, they made that movie, complete ripoff. Bram Stoker's wife sued him. And they were to destroy all the copies of it, and I guess like 1 or 2 survived. And like just recently, what in the 80s or maybe that it popped up again.
Yes, in 70s or 80s.
Yeah, then it came out to play again, you know, whatever. So I don't even know what the rights are now. You know, is Nosferatu its own entity now, or
it is?
Is it
because it's not okay? So they got away with that copyright laws by literally just changing names.
Yeah.
Which
but didn't they do that in the original?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So how are they not getting sued now unless
they added a line that says inspired by the works of Bram Stoker.
Oh, okay.
So they have the original. They have Bram Stoker.
Yeah, because I don't know if Bram Stoker's Dracula is that what do they call that?
Public domain.
Public domain.
Oh yeah.
Is it now? Yeah. Okay. Because it's like, what is it, like 90 years or 100 years, and then it's open, or 60 years or something? I forgot.
95, but it's been 140-ish. So
yeah, okay, yeah. So I guess anybody can do it, right?
Yeah.
So
all right, Jay. So you ready for your random horror trivia question?
Yes.
All right. Who is the director of Twin Peaks and Blue Velvet, who also directed the 1977 horror film Eraserhead?
Ooh, Eraserhead. I actually saw Eraserhead in the movie theater. My uncle took me to go see that in the theater back in, when did it come out? In the early
77.
80s? Is it 77? Oh, yeah. Fuck. No, I couldn't tell you. But I know I went to actually go see it in the theater in New York City. He took me in New York City at some playhouse that was playing it. So I remember it. He's like, I'm going to take you to this really freaky movie. And I'm like, he got me all scared about it. And we went to this like little playhouse in like Soho or something in Manhattan. But no, I couldn't tell you who. Oh, wait a minute.
You know Twin Peaks, right?
Yeah, but I'm not a Twin Peaks fan either. Okay. Yeah, no, I don't know.
You want to know?
Yeah.
David Lynch.
Oh shit. You know, I don't even want to say it, but yeah, I was kind of thinking something like that. Yeah. Okay.
Awesome, Jay. So before we sign off, where can people find you, follow, and learn all about you and your?
You can have a website, just jayfotos.com. You can hit me up on socials, either Facebook and Instagram at Jay Fotos Studios.
Awesome.
All one word, Jay Fotos Studios. 2 S's. Photos S Studios. So Jay Fotos Studios.
Awesome.
And usually I update it, you know, pretty regularly if I'm not talking about my tortoises or goofy shit that I'm doing, or, you know, whatever projects or whatever. But yeah, that's fun.
Sweet. Well, thank you, Jay, for coming on.
Hey, man, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
we were only supposed to talk for half an hour, and then hour and a half later. Nice.
Exactly. It's good conversations, though. So
yes, great.
All good. All right. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Awesome.
Get lost
Thank you.
in the void. Good night.
Thanks, everybody.